I just despair, folks. I really. I mean, the pre-show of here. I mean, the guys are just trying to ruin me. Absolutely ruin me with their tips. So do stick around for that piece because it is absolutely definitely going to shock you, and because it shocked me. That's what I don't even know what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'll hand you over to the boys to actually do the proper show as the standoff kicks off.
Yeah. Good. Sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us tonight on the Standoff, episode 14, season 5, here on New Zealand Sport Radio. We're live here on Wednesdays on Facebook and YouTube throughout the season. Evening, Richie. Well, against the odds, the Understrength Warriors won again in a round that had quite a few one-sided matches. How was your weekend, and what do you think of the Indigenous round?
Yeah, hey Brad. My weekend was good, mate. Probably not quite as good as yours. I'm really looking forward to hearing about your game day experience shortly. But yeah, it was good nonetheless. I had my folks come and stay, and it was my daughter's 16th. So yeah, and we had a good time, and I got to watch the Warriors put on a good performance. So all is good. How about you?
Yeah, it was great. As you said, had a pretty cool weekend with Ruin Hammer, which we'll talk about in a second. But yeah, got to go and watch that Warriors game, which was just another very enjoyable performance after what's been a pretty miserable couple of weeks. So yeah, very, very happy to talk about that. And it's the last game we get to review tonight, which will be good.
Yeah, but let's just back to the serious question. Your daughter's 16, so you got yourself a gun license and a shotgun, right? Let's be clear.
I've been brushing up on my armed combat. Yeah.
So yeah, while we're here live on Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m, you can also catch our show at your convenience on iHeartRadio and Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. As always, we're going to cover everything you need to know in the week that was rugby league, including our top stories of the week, a review of the round 12 matches. We'll then stop and answer some questions from you guys, as well as some questions we've prepared for each other. We'll then preview round 13 and discuss who we're picking before ending the night with a quick recap of Super League. So remember to send us comments and questions throughout the show, and we may as well jump straight into it, Richie.
Sure.
All right. So, yeah, as Richard already mentioned, had a pretty big weekend. So first of all, I want to send thank you to Ruin Hammer. Hammer's watching at the moment, for letting me be a tag along on their little event at Mount Smart. We got to, before the game, we got to go on a tour of the facilities with Cameron George to go look at all the coaching side of the building, the gym, the changing rooms, then go up and look at the office side of things. And it was really insightful. Then we went to Lily World, had a beer and waited for the game, watched the game. Then we got to go into the sheds after kickoff, or after full time, talk and meet some of the players, and then go up into the corporate area after that and have dinner and a drink. So yeah, fantastic. We're not as famous as Ruin Hammer, so we don't get to get those perks, mate. So very thankful that we can leech off them every now and then. So yeah, it was amazing. I didn't get to say hello to Zion, unfortunately. I spied him at the distance and was a little creep in the corner. But
take your breath away.
Yeah, he's a beautiful man, Richie, and yeah, and it made my partner's night. She got to take photos with a couple of players. I think she got Mitch Barnett, Dallin, Jackson Ford, and Wade Egan. And she was still talking about it today. So, yeah, she was very happy. So, yeah, massive thank you to the boys for letting me join.
You recorded all your post-match interviews ready for us to splice into the show later after Richie gives his match review, right?
Yeah, well, as you know, I'm very good with the old taking photos and doing videos and things. So there's absolutely nothing. If you look at Ruin Hammer's Facebook page, you might see the occasional picture of me. Richie also found me on Radio New Zealand's video interview with Dallin. I was lurking in the background. So there's proof I was there. But yeah, I didn't do any of that because
Now,
I'm not very good at that aspect of this job.
and did you have a good chat with Adam Pompey? Give him some pointers. Tell him
Well,
how big a fan you are.
Ruin Hammer had a good talk with him, and I just kind of stood next to him, thinking about how big he was and how, I might be a bit nicer to him now. But he played very well on the weekend, so there wasn't much to criticize. But yeah, it was.
Did you take your CV and hand it to Cam George?
Nah, I forgot. See, I'm really crap at all this stuff. But yeah, next time. But yeah, it was fantastic. I had a bit of a concern during the game, knowing that, we're going to go in after that. What happens if they lose? You and I both know we've been in the sheds after a loss, and it wasn't that enjoyable for us or for the players. So
it was pretty somber.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was awesome, and it was great to finally meet the boys in person, and you get to meet Hammer on Monday, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, so should be good, and thank you again, and we may as well move on. The big news just after our show, as always, was the AFB saga. Richie, the Warriors announced that he'd been stood down following a breach in standards when he was not present for the post-match debrief or the team song after the Warriors win over the Panthers. Rumors were swirling that, he was pushing for a release, but his manager and the Warriors had both come out and said that's not the case. I can say that when we did our tour before the game, he was in the gym with a lot of the boys that are doing rehab. So on game day, he was still there, and he watched the game. I think they said on Sky, they kept showing him in like the players box.
Yeah, he was there.
And admittedly, after the game, he did kind of go straight through the gym without making eye contact with anyone and got the hell out of Dodge. But yeah, what do you take on all of it? My only question about it was answered on game day, where mine was, if they're going to drop him, why did they name him on Tuesday? And then Webby came out and said he hadn't spoken to the team yet due to the runaround. So they named him so there wouldn't be the news in the media that he'd been dropped, and why without the players knowing first. So I get that from the coach's point of view, but all of it, what's your take?
Yeah, look, it's easy to say now that we've won, but we take us back to our losing streak, and we were starting to throw questions up about Webby. What's doing with his bench rotation? One thing's for sure, it takes a lot of guts to drop probably your best player when you haven't been travelling too well, and it's vindicated because we won. But the best part is, the culture that he's built. He's not going to compromise on standards. And I thought it was a weird take from Adam following the Panthers win. Yeah, perhaps he didn't have his best game, but we just beat the three-time premiers. Get in and celebrate with the boys. That's no small feat. That's something to be celebrated. So I completely understand from Webby's point of view and the club's point of view. Just from a strong team culture, you want everyone in there celebrating that, and not sort of disappearing in a hissy fit because maybe you didn't play your best game. I mean, you played your best form in the weeks we were losing, but we've won. It's a team game. Go celebrate it.
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, I don't know how to put it properly. But I'll ramble through it. It's my nature. It could have also been the backhanded part where he knows he didn't play well, but the team stepped up and delivered, where it's kind of been the team's been riding him to get through. So it could have been a bit of a sookie move, which I would never say to the man's face because I'm terrified of the guy. And like Jagger said, AFB's actions after the Panthers game are extremely strange, like sulking about something. There must be more to this than what's been divulged. Potentially there is. We may never know. We just gotta, they've all said that he's sticking around until the end of his contract. I'm pretty sure his manager would be talking to him saying we've kind of burnt bridges everywhere we've been. We don't want to do that again. Potentially, I'm just speculating there, of course, but we just got to enjoy the wins. And I stand by Webby's decision. We don't want to have the Warriors end up like the Rabbitohs, where there's players bigger than the team. You can't have that. There's got to be accountability regardless of you're one of the best players in the squad or you're one of the guys that never gets first grade. There's got to be accountability on all ends. So I'm happy with it. I guess we're just got to wait and see what happens. I know everyone's kind of expecting all this breaking news during buy round and whatnot, but I'm going to be optimistic and think that, whatever has happened, they've nipped it in the butt and we're going to see him continue.
He certainly helps us this year if he comes back and keeps playing the way we know he can play. But if there's one thing the past 2 weeks has shown us, the other guys are ready and able to fill the void.
Yeah, and if it does go down that track of he wants out, they have no obligation to let him go. So if worst comes to worst, so play the devil's advocate, if he is saying, no, I want to go, send him to New South Wales Cup for the rest of the year. You've already shown you can play without him. Just because if that is the case, you don't have to let them go. But I guess time will tell. I'm expecting him to be here come the final game of the year for the Warriors, in my opinion. But
me too.
I get wrong all the time. So we'll move on. Poor old Buzz, or I shouldn't say poor old Buzz, but Buzz has kind of been on fights all over the place, mate. So we'll go with this first one. I picked his two biggest this week. He set his target back on the Tigers, criticising Benji Marshall for going to Fiji during his side's bye, stating that with their current losing streak, the Tigers, he should really be in his office figuring out how to get them winning. If you remember last year, there were similar talks about the Knights when they were apparently all in Bali. It was just Bradman Best that went, and then look what happened with them. But what's your take on Buzz wanting Benji to be chained to the desk 24/7?
Well, that I don't agree with. But when your team is on a losing streak like the Tigers and they've already had a couple of wooden spoons and they're trending that way again, it gives a bit of air to what Buzz is saying, and I never really agree with what Buzz is saying, so I don't agree that he should be chained to his desk 24/7. If they've got a bye week and he's got away for a couple of days, so be it. Like you said, like what Bradman Best did last year, it's not going to end your season. If anything, in that case, it refreshed somebody's season. So, Buzz being Buzz.
Yeah, I don't mind it myself. It's a couple of days in Fiji away from the media. He's stuck in Sydney where all they like to do is talk about the Tigers. So you get away from the press. Is him staying the whole week working on the Tigers going to make them win next week?
Take more than that.
It'll take more than that. So a couple of days away, I think, is not going to hurt them, is it?
No.
Odds are they're going to perform the same either way. But sometimes you need to take a step back. And it's good to do it in a bye week. You don't want to hear that he's gone off for a couple of days during the week when they got a game on the weekend, right? So it's just Buzz being Buzz. But we'll stick with one more for him, mate. He has lambasted Madge Maguire for selecting Joseph Suaalii in the New South Wales team, stating that he should not be allowed to play when he's leaving the NRL for Union next season. What's your take? It's probably my opinion might be completely wrong, but it would be like, say James Tedesco was retiring from football at the end of this year. Would you pick him for New South Wales, or would you say no, because you're not playing next year, you shouldn't play New South Wales?
If his form warranted it, I'd pick him. Because Origin, you're trying to win every year. I understand to an extent trying to build for future, but Origin and Rugby League is like test matches. You try and win every game. So a couple of the selections have that kind of grey area on them. Suoliti, Luke Keary, he's one that is retiring at the end of the year, and I don't know why he's put in the squad, but at the same time, I think Suoliti's form is probably warranted selection. Even though I think they're looking at playing him centre, and I think he's probably better on the wing, but he's been playing really well.
Yeah, I think he's been playing good enough to make selection. Again, it's not the team I really care about, so I don't care who they pick. But, he on the same token, they're all saying to pick Latrell Mitchell, where I would rather have Joseph in my team than Latrell if it was me, which is what Madge has gone with.
I think if you don't have all these injuries and Bradman Best and a few other,
then he wouldn't be in there. Yeah,
he wouldn't be in the squad. Yeah, I think it's out of necessity he's been picked and on form.
Yeah. Buzz loves to talk about that stuff, and I don't watch 360 as much anymore, but I get the highlights just to hear whatever he's arguing about.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. We talked about it briefly last week, but Josh Hannay has declared his interest in the Eels head coaching role. There's been no movement or like anything firming on what they're going with. They're taking their time, but Josh Hannay's been a name in the mix for a lot of coaching gigs when they've come up. Do you think he's earned the right to finally get a chance in first grade?
Why not? And I don't think it could get any worse than running with Trent Barrett, to be fair. We've seen Trent Barrett in head coaching roles before, and I know this is interim, but yeah. It's worth a punt, isn't it? It's worth a punt. If he's got credentials, then look what happened with us with Webby. Never coached first grade, came up trumps. And we were saying last week, they could do worse than throwing a promising rookie a go, because I don't see any other real experienced standouts.
Mate, they're getting weird.
Well, there's a couple, but they've just been fired and not really in form in terms of coaching.
Yeah, there's heaps of names being thrown around at the moment, but yeah, I think sometimes when you want to start fresh and get to where you need to go, sometimes give a guy that hasn't had the chance to prove himself yet, and they might surprise you. Worst case scenario, they don't perform well and you sack them again. And then, Jacko said that the Eels say they want Madge as the only experienced coach who has success. Yeah, I don't see New South Wales letting him have a head coaching role on top of Origin. I don't actually see him quitting New South Wales to go to the Eels.
No, why would you?
It doesn't make sense to me, especially when he gave up being the Kiwis coach, going to the World Cup and everything, to do New South Wales. It kind of wouldn't make sense for him to just quit straight away. But yeah, I guess time will tell with what happens there. So we'll go into, we got two more before we talk about Origin, really. But there's been a lot of discussion around Origin, mate, because there's a few teams complaining that the NRL need to make changes to the NRL fixtures during Origin period. A big example being used. Yeah, I know, Paul, that was Origin. Let me be. It's a Origin adjacent, okay?
He's had a great week.
Yeah, the big example right now is the Cowboys. They're facing the Roosters this week, and they're going to be without, I've got the list, Robson, Dearden, Nanai, Holmes, Tuolagi, and Cotter. And poor old Todd Payton has kind of complained a bit, saying that's not really fair, when a lot of the other teams that have taken big losses in Origin have to bye this week. It's a problem you're always going to face, unfortunately, unless you're a team like the Tigers, who don't have a lot of Origin players, like the Warriors, who have mostly Kiwis. I don't know. The only way you fix it is if you stop the NRL entirely for Origin, which they will never do because they have the TV rights deals. I think we talked about it years ago, mate, where I said for Origin week, you just stop the NRL and you do like, it doesn't work because they want to steal the Islanders for the Origin team, but you have like Tonga versus Samoa, or bring Kiwis in there and do like do like a tri-series of internationals while you're doing Origin, or just something that kind of includes everyone, and then you get all your game, like you get like the female Origin, male Origin, female international, male international. I don't know. It's a way. They'll never do it, but yeah, it doesn't affect us. At worst, we might have 2 players out with Origin, and as Warriors fans, we had like 10 or 11 players out this week. So and we're not complaining about it.
Why can't we have Kiwi Origin? Actually, well, most time it says, but there because it's not. Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you say internationals now, or this is also a good example, a good reason for saying, look, put Origin at the end of the season, after the season, so, or put it before the season, put it outside the season, rather than try to have it shoehorn it in the middle. It just doesn't fit well from that point of view. Either stop NRL entirely, or move it outside the NRL window. To me,
yeah. Well, see, they complained when it was at the end of Origin because they said all the players were injured and but yeah, they're trying to just get the best of both worlds. And I personally, I feel it ruins the NRL product during Origin. If you're going and watching, there are teams like you had the Baby Broncos last year that beat the Warriors in Napier. What the Warriors have done, there are teams that will step up with reserve graders in there, but it's not what you pay for. So I don't know. But anything else you want to add to that, Richie, before we go? Is Richie gone?
Yeah, he's frozen.
Honestly, the storm we've been stuck in, mate. It's obviously just hit Wellington. Are you back now, Richie? Are you with us? He's just
the lights are on, but no one's home.
Yeah, it's like dealing with him all the time, mate. So I'll move on to the next bit while we're waiting for Richard to buffer up and come back. Taylor May's officially been stood down by the NRL, and he has pleaded not guilty to his domestic violence charges. He's set to go to court in March 2025, so he won't be able to play in the NRL until March. He's back. Well done, Richard. Clever. Yeah, he won't be able to play until March, unless he gets found guilty, of course, where he will be out. So I just covered Taylor May, mate. So your take on the NRL's standout policy?
Yeah, it's the policy. So he his what he's accused of is bad enough that this is going to drag on. So it kind of is what it is, and yeah, I don't want to comment on whether he's innocent or guilty. Obviously, I'm not privy to that, and it'd just be pure speculation. But
yeah,
it kind of is what it is. What do you think? Do you think that's right, Brad? Because normally, innocent until proven guilty. But if he's rubbed out of the game for the rest of the year, and then there's no charges at the end of it.
Yeah, I understand both arguments, because say he has to go till March, gets proven non-guilty, and then he's missed all that year when he, by the court of the law, did nothing wrong, then it looks bad on the NRL. But then if the NRL let him play, and then say the Panthers make the grand final, he is the best player in the grand final, and then in March he gets found guilty, goes to prison or whatever, it's a bad look as well. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. But it is the rule that they've put in place for everyone. So if it happened to another player, the same rule applies.
Yes.
So I can see why you disagree with it if someone's proven innocent. But yeah, on the same token, the NRL probably don't want to have someone that could be found guilty and in prison on the front page of everything every week, and the media circus that will go along with keeping up with the pending court case. But yeah, it's not an easy discussion or decision. I'm sure the NRI have to make. But yeah, Paul, you might know.
Look, I was just going to say that there's been too much historical precedent in this that's forced the NRL to come out with this policy. If this was a kind of a one-off and wasn't an issue that the NRL had, then I get the innocent until proven guilty piece. But because there's been so many of them in NRL, and actually in a lot of sports now, that look, sponsors do not want to be associated with this. And so at the end of the day, what are these guys paid for? They're not actually paid to play NRL, to play footy. They're paid to get people to look at them because they're walking billboards for advertisers. That's at the end of the day, that's what the real job is. They're walking billboards, and sponsors don't want to be associated with this kind of behaviour. Funnily enough, and so hence there's been too much of it in the past. That's why there has to be this safety first to save the game more than anything else on this one.
Yep.
Is there a place we can apply to be a walking billboard? Because I don't want to be mean to Taylor May, but I feel like I'm bigger, so I'm a bigger billboard.
There's plenty of space on Brad.
Yeah, there's plenty of space on me if anyone wants to pay and have me as a billboard. I'm happy.
You have to get Inga tattooed on your neck.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that. So before we go into signings, Origin squads have been named, and because we don't have a Warriors picture to do this week, I did this little picture, Matt, of the Origin teams. I will go with my team and the winners, and then you can read off yours, and then we'll discuss what we think. So for Queensland, we've got Reece Walsh at fullback, Xavier Coates and Murray Talangi on the wings, Valentine Holmes and Hamiso Tabu-Fidau, the Hammer in centres, Tom Deard and DCE in the halves, Ruben Cotter, Ben Hunt and Lindsay Collins in the front row, Jaden Sewer and Jeremiah Nanai in the second row, Pat Garrigan at lock, and then you've got the extended bench is Harry Grant, Moeka Futueka, Jermaine Hopgood, Salomon Cobo, Felice Kafusi, Brendan Piakura, and Ezra Mann. And what about those losers, Matt? Who have they got?
As the fullback ousting the former captain now, Tedesco. So Edwards fullback, wingers Brian To'o and Zach Lomax, centres Stephen Crichton, Joseph Suali'i, the halves Jerome Luai and Nico Hines, front row Jake Trebojevic, Reece Robson, Payne Haas, edge back rowers Liam Martin, Angus Crichton, lock Cam McInnes, and the bench Isaiah Yo, Haumole Olokowatu, Spencer Leniu,
Is he frozen again, Paul?
I think he is. Sorry, folks. Yeah, clearly the weather's having a problem with the old tech and the communications tonight. I guess from Brad, if you've listed the Maroons there, happy with that squad, or are there other changes you would have made to it?
No, yeah, I'm happy with that squad. The only question mark was around who would be the number 6 with Cameron Munster injured. And Tom Dearden stood up last year when given the chance. So I think it's a very solid Queensland side, which, hasn't been as disrupted as much as New South Wales through injury and a new coach making his own selections.
So, Richie, looking at your team? You've gone through the names now. Are you happy with the selection, or would you have changed some things with who's available?
More or less, I'm happy with it. I think injury has kind of forced some selections, particularly around the halves. You'd slot Cleary straight in there if he were available. Jake Trebojevic, I feel like there's probably better props running around form-wise, but he's been named captain, so he's got to be there. I mean, I think Mitch Barnett's been fantastic and probably warrants somewhere in the playing 17. Very biased of me, but I think his form's been good enough. Other than that, I think it's pretty good. It's a step in the right direction from where Brad Fittler was in the previous few years.
Yeah, and so we've got 2 Manly Sea Eagles as captains of each side, which is cool for them. And yeah, congrats on Mitch Barnett for making the squad. First Warrior to be named as a debut in New South Wales while playing for the Warriors. We've had a couple that were already involved. This was his first time. There are some sneaky rumours that he actually might make the 17 because there are some injury clouds, and Hudson Young may either move into the centres or something else might change, and Barnett might be the guy that comes up. He's basically the only forward out of the extended. So I would, if it was me, I'd probably put Burton in the centres instead of Hudson Young, but that's just me. But yeah, it'd be great. As much as I would rather Mitch Barnett miss it and just come back and play for the Warriors, but I think he's the type of player that could, if he wanted to, play Origin and then, back up and play for the Warriors. So
as we've got sit on here, do you want to do your predictions now? Get it out of the way.
Oh, we do it next week before the game, mate.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. It's played next Wednesday, I think, isn't it, Richie?
Yeah, it is. Next
Wednesday after our show. So we'll do our pick on it then. But yeah, I'm looking forward.
Currently at the Tier B, New South Wales are $2.02 and Queensland a favourite at $1.80.
Queensland's always the underdog. We've got trying times. So we'll quickly go into signings, mate, before I lose you to another storm cloud. AJ Brinson's extended with the Titans, massive extension till the end of 2030. I'm always a bit cautious about long-term deals, but I think a guy like AJ probably deserves it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've spoken a lot of times this year about he's probably their best player, and the Titans need to retain guys like that if they want to stay relevant.
Yeah. And then obviously we talked about it last week. Isaiah Papali'i had decided he was leaving the Tigers at the end of the year, and he's now signed a 3-year deal to join the Panthers. I'm sure Cameron George is discussing with Ivan about what payment plan he's going to pay, since Ivan said you should pay the team that develops a player. So thanks, Uncle Ive. We're getting some pretty money out of the Panthers for that. Thing is, it's a great idea. We discussed that he would, we didn't think he'd come to the Warriors. We thought he would stay in Sydney and go to one of the big bopper teams, and that's exactly what he's done.
Yeah, and I think he'll go to another level again once he gets there. So good for Ice, and I think it'll be a nice marriage, him and the Panthers, when he goes there and no doubt hits form again.
Yeah, and then the last one was the Storm have released Aaron Penny, effective immediately to join a yet-to-be-named Super League side. There was talks that it might be Lee due to them losing Tom to the Bulldogs next year, but there's been no confirmation from any side up in the UK. Not surprised. Aaron he left the Storm, came to the Warriors, didn't really set the world on fire, went back to the Storm and never really got back into the groove there either, especially with the way their front row has been going, and then guys like Katoa and the edges. So he never really got a spot back. So no big loss to the Storm there, but I'm sure he'll carve up in the Super League.
Yeah, one of those guys, even when he came here, he looked like he had a lot of promise about him, but never really got the opportunity. I don't know what that comes down to, but just never materialized into a regular first grader here.
Yeah, and now we'll go into injuries. There was quite a lot as normal, but I've gone with four big ones. So Egan Butcher from the Roosters is out for the season after rupturing his ACL. A big blow for him. I'm sure that the Roosters will make up for his absence, but it's a terrible blow to lose your whole season when he's been playing pretty well for them. And you're paused again, so I'll move on. Bulldog Viliami Kikau will be out for 4 to 6 weeks after suffering a compound fracture of his ring finger. I saw a picture that I think Gould had put up on Twitter, and it didn't look pretty. So hopefully he can bounce back. Jack Bird suffered a severe ankle sprain, but thankfully there was no fracture. But as of writing these notes up for the show, there was no return time. Yeah, it looked horrible, Paul. I know you wouldn't have seen it, but it gave me flashbacks due to my ankle injuries that I get. He was going for a tackle to try to get the guy over the sideline, and his foot kind of went on top of the player he was tackling's foot and just rolled and looked bad. He immediately was screaming in pain. And because he kind of fell over the sideline and wasn't on the field of play, the ref just let the play go. It just let him die on the sideline until things kind of fell apart. But yeah, thankfully there's no break in there. They are a bit tricky to come back from. He's a professional and will do rehab, unlike someone I know who has refused to do rehab and still has this issue with their ankle. But
I can't imagine who that is.
Yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, walking for long periods of time does not help it. And then the last one, thank you for coming back, Richie. Ali Lehatawa from the Warriors.
Let's leave him come back. That was shocking.
Yeah. So I just covered, we talked about Butcher Kikau's out for 4 to 6 weeks and Jack Bird's ankle injury where he did a Brad. And we don't know how long he'll be out. And then, we talked about Ali Lehatawa from the Warriors last week, how we didn't have an information on what happened. They did, I was meant to write it down, but I didn't. It was an ankle injury, but they say he's going to be out for 6 weeks. And the ankle injury happened early on in that game against the Panthers, so there was a lot of praise his way of playing through the pain and playing well. So anything you want to add to the host?
Yeah, I'll stay on the Warriors-related one then. It's just a bummer for Ali. That's twice now he's come into first grade, played a good game, and then been forced out through injury. But it's also a bummer for our New South Wales Cup team because he's a important part of that side. So I just feel for him, and hope he recovers well and bounces back.
He feels like he gets so close to getting that chance to make a name for himself in first grade, and it's just a little taste and then a step backwards. His time will come.
It will.
I'm really confident in him. So yeah, hopefully he bounces back really quick. Next bit is Naughty Boy Corner. Only got one, mate. David Clemmer from the Tigers. He's got a 3-match ban for a grade 2 dangerous contact. I think it was the hip drop.
Yep.
And that was a big topic of conversation this week about the hip drop. Graham Ellerslie really wanted to make it clear for everyone by making it as confusing as possible, saying that there's different degrees of a hip drop, which is why you can't just say every hip drop's a sin bin or every hip drop's a penalty. So we still don't really know. He tried to explain what a good hip drop and what a bad hip drop is. And it was the front row of me, mate. I have to admit, just got fuzzed over the head and was confused.
It's just getting stupid now, isn't it? In my opinion, because
you can't say that, mate. The NRL will fine you, and I don't know if you can afford it, and I don't think Paul will lump up the money.
Well, Annesley goes
all opinions
shows
of those personnel team talks, not officially of New Zealand Sport Radio.
Yeah. Annesley goes on his Monday morning rants with all his psychobabble, but at the end of the day, what we see on the pitch and in the judiciary is inconsistency with it. And that's what you want.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a thing we'll talk about every week. I feel every week there's going to be a couple of hip drops that everyone's going to argue about. So I'm sure there'll be more, but we may as well jump straight into Indigenous round, mate. We'll see. Hopefully you can get through this. Starting on Thursday.
As he heads off screen. Yeah,
Mate,
bye.
I'm looking for my bloody land cable. Sometimes it works with it, sometimes it doesn't. I'm supposed to be on fiber, but hey, Bjorn, maybe it's because I live in Middle Earth here, and yeah, it is what it is.
I don't have fiber, mate. I'm doing okay. You just got to move out of the hick town of Wellington, mate.
What am I paying for? Anyways, let's do the round.
Yeah. So starting on Thursday, the Bulldogs defeating the Dragons 44-12.
8 tries to 2 here for the Doggies. Matt Burden with 2. Jamin Salmon with 2. Jacob Kuraz, Jacob Preston. Jacob Kuraz got 2. And Stephen Crichton. It's quite the score sheet. For the Dragons, Brad's favourite team, Moses Sully and Jacob Little.
Yeah, the Dragons are back, baby. Love seeing them get spanked. The Bulldogs had a slow first half, but they shot out of the gates in the second half and never really looked back. They kept their errors down and they stuck to their side strengths. They started to tear the Dragons to shreds and just started making it look really easy to score. And it was an impressive display from what's been the ever-improving Doggies. They seem to get, a bit better every week, which is all you can really ask for after how poor they were last year.
Yeah. They went into the break 12-6 down, like Paul's just said. But it was a massive second half from the Dogs, which was far too strong for the Dragons. By the end of it, they were looking very slick and, on that kind of form, a potential top 8 side. Or do we put it into context and say it was just the Dragons who were a bit up and down?
We can't just say it was just the Dragons because the Dragons beat us, mate.
Exactly.
So they have to be a good team somewhere in there. But yeah,
at the end of the day, no game in the NRL is an easy game. So you're very impressive from the Bulldogs.
Unless you're playing the Sharks in Penrith Park, mate. That becomes an easy game. But that's a little bit later. Your take on the Dragons?
Yeah, so the opening half wasn't bad from them, but they, for whatever reason, they seemed to get worse as the game went on. I think they lost a couple of players, and the longer the game went on, like you said, the Bulldogs just started finding it easier and easier to score, and they ended up conceding a big score. So much to Brad's pleasure, but not so much if you're a Dargans fan.
Yeah, so they were in this match at halftime, obviously had the lead, but they just never left the sheds at the break. It was really hard to figure out what went wrong because they missed less tackles than the Bulldogs. So I kind of put it down to it's hard to say it, but the lack of desire to scramble like the Doggies did. So like the Doggies would miss a tackle and there was always someone that would come in and fix it up. Dragons weren't doing that. Their discipline didn't help them either. They have shown promise this season. But this is a game I think they're going to regret letting slip. Paul said Jacob Kuraz led the fantasy points. Who was your player?
I went Matty Burden. Kuraz was good. A lot of them were good, really, to be fair. 44 points, and they a lot of people stood out. But, Burton, couple tries, just looked dangerous in general.
Yeah, I was basic, so I went with Jacob Kuraz. I thought he was great. I think he led both sides in line breaks. He ran for near on 300 meters.
He's very good.
Yeah, he's really found his groove as an attacking weapon this season.
Near on at 300 meters, 259. I mean, next, I want you rounding up my salary, if you don't mind.
Mate, if I ran 259 meters in a game, I'd be telling you all I ran 300. So that's prop math.
That's in prop meters, yeah.
Yeah. Near on 400, mate. You wouldn't believe it. Game of my life. So we'll move on to the first game on Friday. The Cowboys putting the Tigers to the sword, 42-28.
Yeah, 7 tries to 5 here for the Cowboys. Kyle Felt with 2. Jeremiah Nanai with 2. Sam McIntyre, Val Holmes with 2. For the Tigers, Solomon Alamalo, Jareen Bula, Samuela Fainu, Stefano Utoikamanu, and Alex Twile with his second try.
His second try, mate. That was a win in my eyes, seeing Twile get over again. But, the Cowboys have been under the pump. but they've responded with a big win here, which, you can say it was just the Tigers, but how often do the Cowboys have been so bad in confidence? I was expecting this to be a lot closer than it was. They kept the scoreboard ticking over a relative pace with a lot of heavy lifting being done by their backs. Looked more composed with the ball in hand and just made the most of their opportunities, but have a tough Origin affected 2 weeks against the Roosters and the Warriors, so they'll be back under the pump again, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we saw an improvement from them this week, the Cowboys, which is good. I think playing to that level, they're probably still unlikely to knock off the very top sides with that level of play, but they'll take any win, whichever way it comes at this point, the way they've been travelling. So win's a win. It was a good win. Like you say, they're moving in some tough times through Origin, so they needed this one to stem the tide somewhat.
Yeah, and your take on the Tigers?
Yeah, again, they bring about their own demise with poor moments in amongst some quality stuff. They did score some nice tries, but yeah, unfortunately, just like most games this year, they just have little moments of poor control or ill discipline or just dumb play, and it's seeing them pick up being on the wrong end of the results most weeks and trending back towards a very familiar spot on the ladder for them.
Yeah, I thought they got a couple of nice tries at the beginning and end of the second half to make the scoreline look a little less brutal, but they just were poor once again. They did show heart, which has been something that we've seen with the Tigers, but they made 11 errors and they missed 44 tackles, which had them destined to a heavy defeat. A team that's very used to struggling, and while I thought they turned a corner, perhaps I was being a little bit too optimistic.
Maybe.
Paul said Valentine Holmes topped the fantasy points with 80, as well as topping run meters and line breaks. Who did you pick?
I went with Jeremiah Nanai. He's been a wee bit up and down this year, but he picked up a couple of tries here, which is what he normally does best, and maybe he's playing to cement himself in that Origin jumper, but I thought he had a good one.
And I'm going 2 from 2. I went with Valentine Holmes. Paul stole my reasons, but yeah, he topped the run meters, line breaks, only missed one kick, which was a complaint we had, I think, last week about his goal kicking. So he improved, and some of those players always seem to find another gear when they're waiting to hear if their name's been called out in Origin. So I was expecting a big one. Next game on Friday, the multi-ruiner, as Paul abused us later on in our chat. The Seagulls defeating the Storm 26-20.
And 4 tries to 3 in this one for Manly. Ben Trbojevic, Tommy Talau, Jake Trbojevic, and Tommy Talau picked up a second. For the Storm, Ali Katoa, Nick Meaney, and Jerome Hughes.
Yeah, the first upset of the round, but not the last. Manly came to play. It was a tight contest all night with the sides hard to split on the stats. But Manly just took their chances when they spotted them and punished the Storm's poor discipline by nailing their penalty goals. An impressive outing from a side that struggled without Turbo and could be the confidence booster they need.
Yeah, no, I don't have a lot too different from you, Brad. They did turn up to play this week in front of their home crowd. They tend to do well at home. I thought Manly did really well to keep the informed Storm side at bay and keep turning over the scoreboard and end up picking up the 2 points, which is a big win over one of the high flyers so far this year.
And your take on the Storm?
Yeah, like I said, they've been playing really well, so this one's a bit of a blip in the radar for them. I guess just probably didn't play with the discipline and control required for the win. Probably a few too many errors, and you might say a bit unstorm-like, but yeah, just not their night tonight.
Yeah, like I already mentioned, it was a tight game with not much separating the sides, but the Storm made 11 errors and they conceded penalties in the wrong area of the field, which put them on the back foot. A tough loss for the Storm to take, but they're going to bounce back.
Yeah.
Your player to stand out, I think this is the first game where we picked the same guy.
Yeah, Tommy Talawi was. I think he has been quite impressive of late, racking up a lot of running meters, and again this game with a couple of tries as well.
Yeah, I think he's slowly been building his form since joining the club. He did lead fantasy points, as Paul's just mentioned as well. But yeah,
3 for 3.
yeah, he looks 3 for me. Yeah, I think he's been fantastic for Manly, and he's probably very happy to no longer be a Tiger. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, congrats on him. And we'll move to the next game. Roosters on Saturday defeating the Raiders 44-16.
Yeah, 8 tries to 3 in this one for the Roosters. Victor Radley, Luke Keary, Joey Manu with 2, James Tedesco with 2, Joseph Suali'i and Angus Crichton. And for the Raiders, Nick Cottridge, Hudson Young and KO Weeks.
Yeah, so another blowout match that the Roosters had pretty much won at halftime. Was as close to a complete performance as you can get, with my only criticism really being the 9 penalties they conceded. But besides that, the forwards controlled the middle and the backs created plenty of headaches for the Raiders. Very solid return to form after their disappointing match last week. Although I do want to say I thought their penalty try was a joke.
Oh, yeah, that was
I
terrible.
don't know how they get a penalty try there, but poor old Dallin didn't get one, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, so they barely brushed him, really, didn't they? And it looked like he just was going to drop that anyway.
And he scored, yeah. I don't know. But yeah, your take on the Roosters.
No, I'm not done. If they're not going to give Dallin a penalty try, how do they give this one a penalty try? I'd understand if they penalise it and send the Raiders player to the bin. But how is that a penalty try and Dallin's one isn't? Okay, very, very salty. Onto the Roosters. For me, yeah, back to winning ways for the Roosters. Again, they're looking like the real deal this year. Not a lot of teams do put that kind of score on the Raiders when it's Raiders home game. So very impressive from the Roosters. They looked way too overpowered in this one.
Yeah, and your take on the poor old Raiders?
Yeah, tough loss for the Green Machine. Never really in the game, and although we've seen some gutsy Raiders performances this year, I think this game just showed the gulf in class between the two teams, and one team that has premiership credentials and another one, while they're there or thereabouts in the 8, they're probably not in the same sort of class as the Roosters.
Yeah, it was a tough day at the office for the Raiders. They just struggled to have any answers defensively, and when they finally got their hands on the ball, they couldn't hold on to it. Not a lot of praise, but I'm sure Ricky will have them ready to be competitive again. But yeah, not much I can really say about them. Your player to stand out. James Tedesco led the fantasy points.
I stayed with fantasy. I thought Tedesco was really good. A couple of try assists, line break assists. Did everything to try and play himself into his New South Wales jersey that he's owned for the past few years. But yeah, I guess Madge Maguire had his mind already made up there.
Yeah, and I was meant to check beforehand, sorry. I think that was a prediction on the Ruin Hammer predictions I made, so I think I've actually got one right, that he would lose his spot. But yeah, I went with Joseph Manu. I think having him back after missing last week, he added some much-needed strike power on the edge, and it was good to see him back. And I was going to say they would have needed him this week. But with Tedesco not getting picked, they've actually got a pretty strong side still. So, but yeah, I thought Manu was fantastic. But yeah, can't argue with Tedesco either. Thought he was pretty good. But we'll move on to the biggest game of the round, I guess. Probably the most surprising. It was probably going to be match of the round, Panthers versus Sharks. But the Panthers, I think they were a bit salty themselves after losing to the Warriors because they put on a clinic, defeating the Sharks 42-0.
Yeah, it should have been the biggest match of the week. Turned into the biggest hiding of the week. 7 tries to 0 for the Panthers. James Fisher-Harris Jerome Luai, Paul Alamotti, Dylan Edwards, Jack Cole, Liam Henry, Scotty Sorensen, and the Sharks didn't trouble the scorers here.
Yeah. The Panthers needed a statement match after their Warriors loss, and boy, did they deliver in a non-stop first half. With all the big names stepping up, they did slow down in the second half, and another example of them perhaps letting the foot off the gas. But the damage was already done. It was, 28-0 at halftime.
Yep.
They just back to the status quo that we've come to expect from them. They had a game plan that they knew would shut down the Sharks, and it worked perfectly. Your take on the Panthers?
Yeah, like you, I was expecting a big response from the Premiers this week, and yeah, what a response it was. The intensity levels for them lifted in all areas, on the ball and off the ball, and it just ended up a complete domination. And it's like watching the Panthers, like you normally do, where they just suffocate teams. But yeah, they brought it this week, even with their attack. And Luai shifted to 7. I thought he was excellent, and yeah, they just blew them out of the water.
Yeah, and before I ask you your thoughts on the Sharks, I'm going to have a pop shot at Paul. He said the Panthers scored more points in the 1 hour than the winning Warriors did in the entire game.
The first half.
The first half, sorry. Come on, we had a New South Wales Cup team out there. We had kids. Give us some credit. And it doesn't matter how many points they scored this week because they lost to us last week. But yeah, your take on the Sharks?
Yeah, I think the Sharks will be hoping this one is just an anomaly. Not many people would have seen this coming. I certainly didn't, the way they've been playing, and the way the Panthers had been playing. Yeah, there's not a lot they can take from this, really. The only positive they can take is that they avoided conceding the 50, because we know when you concede 50, you don't go on to win the premiership.
Exactly.
Yeah, but they'll have to be doing some hefty reviews this week, because that one wasn't pretty.
Yeah, Sharks had convinced me that they were world beaters, but they and I were well and truly humbled. They were blown off the park and offered nothing. 15 errors, 55 missed tackles, an embarrassing display at home, and perhaps a welcome wake-up call that while they're good, they're not actually that good. And yeah, I'm sure Billy Slater watched this game with his little notepad out, because the Panthers showed you how you could rattle Nico Hines. Nico was admittedly, he went off at portions of this game, but he was just never there. He crumbled under the pressure. So yeah, not very good for them. Paul has said Jerome Luai tops the fantasy with 95. Who'd you pick?
I went Luai. I thought he was excellent.
I think we're evening out now and picking our fantasy guys, mate.
Evening out. Yeah, we are. And if Billy Slater was watching Nico Hines struggle, hopefully Jerome Luai gave him some cause for some nerves.
Yeah, I couldn't bring myself to pick Luai, so I went with Dylan Edwards. Thought Dylan was great out there. I don't know if he would be the goal kicker for New South Wales or not. They've got a few options.
Nah, surely they'll run with Nico Hines.
You'd think so, yeah.
Anyone else? Lomax, maybe?
Lomax, they've got a couple, but if he gets given that duty, I'm sure he'll nail it. But he just played with a lot of heart, and I think this game here may have been the one that got him ahead of Tedesco. I think there were little bits. I know Madge did talk about there were little moments in this game, like the little 1%ers that he did that really highlighted it for him. But yeah, so I think the effort he put in here probably helped him very likely. But yeah, very impressive from the Panthers. Very happy they didn't play like that last week.
Yes, yeah.
Go on to the final game on Saturday. The Rabbits defeating the Eels 42-26.
7 tries to 5 here for the Rabbitohs. Jai Arrow, Keon Kalormatangi had 2. Dylan Teaupa, Alex Johnson, Sean Kepi, and Damien Cook. For the Eels, Blaise Talangi, Sean Russell, Morgan Harper, Mike Acevo ×2.
Yeah, the Rabbitohs were due a win, and up against the struggling Eels, they looked determined to get the job done. It kind of felt like it's a now or never moment for them. Their attack looked more lethal with Jack Wyden in the halves until he went off with an HIA, unfortunately. Sean Kepi and Keon Kolomatangi stood up and led from the front, and Latrell Mitchell looked dangerous again, although he still had his fair share of blunders. I'm not convinced that this is more than a one-off yet, but perhaps this is the confidence booster they needed. Latrell talked a lot about how there's like no pressure on the boys anymore. And it's like, it would have been nice to say there was no pressure a few weeks ago before you got your coach sacked. But it was, if they weren't going to beat the Eels, they weren't going to beat anyone, it kind of felt. But they looked better.
Yeah, I mean, still 10 errors in this game. I mean, obviously, the Eels put in.
Oh, they're still bad, but
so still wasn't a clinical performance.
No. Your take on the Rabbits?
Yeah, the Rabbits and their fan base will be breathing a huge sigh of relief after this one. Doesn't feel like a big turning point moment to me. Like we were just saying, there's still errors in their game. It was more of a case of two struggling teams and one team needed to win. Brad, you called it. I think you tipped the Rabbitohs, and moving, like you said, moving Jack Wyden on the ball a bit more made a bit of a difference. I think you talked about that last week.
Wayne Bennett. If you need me, mate, I'm there. I'll help you.
He's a prop.
Props got the greatest minds in the game, mate.
Apparently so. Yeah, but they did a good job to rack up some points, so they can be pleased with themselves.
Yeah, and I already see what you're going to say about the Eels, so it won't take you long. What's your thoughts on the Eels?
Exactly, more of the same. Exactly. They can't get Moses and Gutho back fast enough. As they appear lost without them, and it's been that way since they've been gone. So I think they get them back this week. They'll be pleased about that, and hopefully they can see their fortunes change.
Yeah, I've just said the same. The Eels dramas continue. They had no direction, no respect for the ball, which just makes their job harder, and I sound like a broken record, as do you. They need Gutho and Moses back, so let's see if they bounce back with those two returning this week. And Paul said that...
I was going to say, Mako Sivo looks like he was fighting trying to be a one-man army for them, but no one else stood up with him.
He's their biggest strength and their biggest weakness, that man.
Yeah, really. He really is.
For everything he does amazing, he balances it out with silly things. Keon Kolomatangi led the fantasy points with a massive 104, and I think there's no spoilers here. I think we both picked him, right?
Yep, that's exactly why I went with him.
Yeah, he carried his forward pack on his back. It was crazy. Thought he was thoroughly convincing out there. Very good player. Shame he's in a team as bad as that, but them's the breaks. Anything else you want to add about Keon before we move on?
No, move on.
Also, we'll move on to the first game on Sunday.
One thing I will say is he's both sides of the ball. 33 tackles, most tackles for his team, and he had the most run meters, and he scored 2 tries. Quite often we'll talk about a player just for one side of the ball, but he was playing. He led them both sides of the ball.
Yeah. So first game on Sunday. Unless you call the next game an upset too, this might have been the last upset of the round. But the Titans defeating the Broncos 36-34, and this was our defense before we went live. When Paul, it was about an hour before we went live, Paul was ripping into us like we were an ill-performing team about losing the multi. We would have lost the multi anyway with this upset. So we're sorry, Paul. We're going to get you the multi this week, mate. And read out the scorers, Richie.
All right. 7 tries to 6 for the Titans. We had Tony Francis, Beau Fermor, Aaron Clark, Chris Randall, Keenan Palacia, Brian Kelly, and Lofikan Pereira. For the Broncos, Payne Haas, Corey Oates, Dean Mariner, Brendan Piakura, Ezra Mamsell, and Cobbo.
Yeah, very, I was going to say depressing, very impressive display from the Titans. I'm just so used to talking about the Titans in bad light, mate. They know how to attack and are very dangerous with their second phase football. And while their defense still needs a lot of work, they held their nerve and earned a massive scalp. As long as they remember that there's two halves, you can expect them to be competitive, which is what we saw here. Your thoughts on the Titans?
Yeah, big upset win for little brother here. They went behind in this one, but they just refused to give up and kept coming back into it, and ended up picking up the 2 points. And I highly endorse what Bjorn said in the comments. Nothing better than seeing the Broncos get done.
Yeah, and you'll take on those Broncos.
Very disappointing from the Broncos, who were one of the best, if not the best, defensive team last year. I can't remember if it was them or Panthers, which way around they were, but I'm pretty sure they were first and second defense-wise.
Yeah.
But to concede 36 to the Titans at home, that'll hurt. Going into Origin period where they lose plenty of players, they'll hope to negotiate the next few weeks as well as they can and not have too many results like this.
Yeah, Broncos, I think, in all honesty, just took the Titans too lightly. And while they had a solid lead at halftime, I think they expected the Titans to fade, as we've all come to expect from the Titans, to be fair. And when they didn't, it kind of looked like they panicked a bit, made schoolboy errors. You know, that's kind of a big thing when you have Adam Reynolds not there, that leader in the back line that can kind of settle things down. You kind of, you got your Mams and your Walshes and all that get a bit skittish when they're under the pump. They ended the match with 40 missed tackles and 14 errors, including bombing what could have been a match winner in the final stages. A massive slip up from the Broncos here, and a loss that could cost them when it comes to finals. You just talked about Origin. They kind of got through Origin all right last year because they had Adam Reynolds. Now they're going into Origin without Reynolds and without their
without Walsh,
the big stars. So it could be a tough time for them. Bjorn said an interesting penalty try in this game, if I'm not mistaken. Was there? I was actually watching this at Mount Smart, so I didn't pay attention to that part. Was there a penalty try? I only remember the Roosters one.
Yeah, the Roosters one was the interesting one. That one, obviously, I had a little fit about earlier.
Yes. So, yeah, sorry. I didn't pick it up. Penalty tries are always dicey, in my opinion. Unless they're a Warriors one, then they're well-deserved. Yeah, Jacko said there was. So, no, you got it right, Bjorn.
Yes,
we're just not professional.
There was. Yep.
Yeah.
No, sorry, it came back to me. Anyways.
Can you explain it for the ones that didn't pay attention, mate?
Yes. Again, like you just said, all penalty tries are dicey. I haven't seen one so far this year that I've agreed with. So the only one I saw that was clear cut was Dallin's one, and I'll stand by that.
Yeah, we picked the same guy as our player of the match, who I do think actually led fantasy. Yep, Keno Kindi got 80 points in fantasy. So I went with the young fullback. Thought he was fantastic for the Titans again. It's I think we talked about it a while ago that he seems like he should be the one that's fullback even when Jaden Campbell comes back. You need Jaden Campbell in your side too, but you can't lose Keno. I think Keno is very good in that fullback role, and I think Jaden is talented enough where you could slot him in somewhere else.
Yes. Yeah. I went Keno with my player. He was outstanding, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Led fantasy. He's a Kiwi too. Yeah,
and Jagger said we're always professional. Yeah, we're the most professional people out there. It is what it is. And Jagger said Walsh looked like he had a bad knee in the second half. I think he was perfectly fine.
He always looks like that.
Yeah, I think when the going gets tough, Reece gets looking for the sidelines. He's got the ticker of a mouse, that man, but it is what it is. That's the talent you get with him. He's very rocks or diamonds with no heart.
It was Dean Mariner's try that was the penalty try.
Yeah. And Paul's jumped in some short pulls. No, not at all, mate.
So what I've done is I've gone onto the Tribe Sports app to get their typed commentary, and they went, it's a penalty try. Cobbo got the kick back, jumping over Kane Pereira. He quickly offloaded to Mam, who looked for support instead of deciding to put it on the boot, chipping it out to the right side, hand side. Mariner was winning the race, just waiting for the ball to sit up.
Bo Fermor,
But Fermor tackled him from behind.
Yeah.
There was no choice but to award the penalty try.
Bo Fermor took him out.
There you go.
There you go.
You can't tackle a guy without the ball.
It depends. Depends who you're tackling, Paul.
It's still dicey. It's very dicey.
It sounds more clear cut than the one in the Roosters. So we'll move on to the last game. Don't know if you want to talk about it too much, mate, but the Warriors defeating the Dolphins 24-20.
I will talk about it. Thanks very much, Brad. 4 tries apiece. Chanel Harris Tavita, Tamaiti Martin, Dylan Watinez-Lesniak, Maratini Kore. For the Dolphins, Jermaine Isako with 2, as he tends to do. Herbie Farnworth and Hamaso Tabuai Fido.
Yeah, well, I can admit my confidence was very low prior to kickoff with all the last-minute changes, and the slow start from the Warriors didn't help my nerves. But the Warriors dug deep, and they delivered a solid performance. The forwards, led by Mitch Barnett, stood up. Tamari Martin directed play well. Moala Graham Taufa did not look out of place in the centres, and Dallin ran the ball back with vigour at fullback. Just a great confidence booster for this side as they attempt to climb back up the ladder. I was very impressed. And as I said before the show went live, I got away from the multis and I had put money on the Panthers game, and then I put money on the Dolphins game. And so I'm happy. I might just stick with the Warriors upsetting people from now on. Your take on the Warriors?
What you're doing.
Yeah.
Keep doing whatever it is you're doing. It was a massive win to cap off an outstanding 2 weeks. Even with a full-strength Warriors side, beating the Panthers and then another top 4 team the week after would have been a tall ask. But to do it against all odds, with all the lineup changes, all the injuries, all the wives going into labour, illnesses, and the amount of reshuffling we had to do, Dallin to fullback and etc. You know, it's the rejigging of our team was almost at crisis point for us. So hopefully this could be the moment that gets our season back on track. To do it heading into the bye, even better. Yeah, that's 6 points up, from a possible 6 points in that 3 weeks.
Yeah, and your take on the Dolphins?
Thought they made a great start. I thought they had players playing out of their skin. Herbie Farnworth, for one, was fantastic. Izzy Katoa looks like a player well ahead of his years. Kicked the 40-20, was playing really well. Jermaine Isako, he was awesome as well. But in the end, they weren't able to sustain it in front of a very vocal Mount Smart crowd. I'm glad the crowd turned up, even after the losses we'd been having. It was still a great crowd and very vocal. Might have been enough to get us over the line.
It did get quiet at times. I think the temperature was assistant to that. It was really cold, and when it looked at that start where it looked like the Dolphins were going to run away with it, the crowd kind of died a little, which is to be expected. But yeah, they came back, and it's always great to be in that crowd there when things are going well. So very happy there.
Just don't let it get quiet. Stand up and yell a bit.
I didn't send the picture to Paul, but I sent it to you. I actually got on TV during this game, and you can see people are like happy and cheering, and I'm deadpanned looking at the field clapping, and that's as animated as I get. I have to save all my excitement for doing the show for 2 hours every week. But yeah, you just talked about the Dolphins?
Yes,
no?
I did.
You did, yeah, cool.
Yes,
I'll talk about them now.
Yeah. Nice to know you listen to me, though.
Just getting ready for what I'm going to reply back, man. I'm not paying attention. Dolphins are well and truly in this match, but really only have themselves to blame with some ill-timed errors, including Hammer's drop bomb, which that that moment there, I felt was what turned momentum in the Warriors' favor, and some poor goal kicking. Jermaine usually did I dick at the goal tee, went 50%. If he had gone 100%, we're talking golden point scenarios. Still a very good side, though. Herbie Farnworth is so dangerous. Whenever he touched the ball, my heart was in my throat because it felt like he would go. Whenever he touched it, he was gone.
Yeah.
And, Wayne Bennett's going to use this defeat as a valuable lesson.
So can you say the name of the person who kicked 100%, please, Brad?
The goat.
Adam Pompey. I saw Bjorn said he scored a nice try. He didn't score a single try. He sometimes forgets what that try line is, Bjorn. But he was fantastic. I already said it when we talked about going in to the sheds, and that there was nothing you could be critical about. He's been a bit iffy sometimes goal kicking, but he had some pretty difficult ones to hit in this game, and he nailed every single one when the team needed him to. He didn't do anything wrong. If they were playing this weekend, I would say there's nothing you could say to drop him out of the side. Why I'm not his biggest fan. I'll call a spade, and when he's earned his spot. So until he doesn't earn it, you got to keep him in it. And Jacko said he noticed Ford was the first player in frame to scoop up Hammer's drop ball. Ford has a huge motor. Yeah, he gives 100% all the time. It doesn't always, he's got a few errors in him from time to time, but he really stood up. But yeah, I was very impressed with Ford. It was a big bounce back from him because he was one of those players that wasn't performing when they were in that losing streak. Admittedly, there were a lot of them, but thought he was fantastic. And I think, Herbie Farnworth led with 99 fantasy points. Tamati Martin led the Warriors with only 56. Real team effort. Yeah, it was. And I think I said that in my review. Sorry, before I go to you, Richie. It was, everyone, a lot of the stars out, but I would take 17 guys giving their all over superstars any day of the week, which is what we saw here. It was just a whole lot of guys giving their all, and they got the win because of it. So well deserved. But your player to stand out.
Segueing into that, perfectly said, Brad. I found it hard to pick one because a lot of people stood up. I thought Bunty was fantastic. There are a number. Tamati Martin, obviously fantastic. Dylan Walker again, but I went Maratini Okore.
Yeah.
Purely just because of what we missed. It was evident what we missed with him not being there. The punch he provides, like seeing him out wide there punching holes, scoring a try. It makes us look that much more dangerous.
He's been one of their biggest misses this year. They've really missed him a lot. He's just a big human. It's crazy how big that man is. And he just was a real threat out there. I went with Tamati Martin. Similar to what Jacko's just said about Freddie Lussick. He said Lussick, who gets knocked on podcasts a lot, set up DWZ's try by attracting two defenders and a lovely short pass. Yeah, I thought Lussick played well, but Tamati Martin has been lambasted a lot on a lot of shows, a lot of podcasts, including this one when 2 weeks ago I said he's not a footballer, he's a fisherman. So he's well and truly making me eat my words because he's been fantastic the past 2 weeks. He got given the keys, as everyone's been saying, and has done really well. I won't go into what happens when he's back to 6 and Sean's to 7 because that's kind of my question to you. But yeah, I went with Tamati. I thought he was fantastic. He was just very solid, and hopefully this is the building on some good things.
It's opened up a lot of different looks for us, hasn't it? Because we said it last week, and it was happened again on the weekend. We've gone left a lot more than we have been. And look at people like Montoya enjoying the benefits of that. He had another big game. when we finally were in the grind in that second half, he was putting in grubbers and we got 3 repeat sets in a row. Whereas in our losing streak, everything was going high ball out to the right corner.
Yeah.
I think it's been awesome that he's provided like a lot of different looks to what we've been showing.
Yeah, and Jacko said CHT should stay at 6 when SJ's back, but I think we've still put TMM there. I liked Chanel. I thought Chanel was great this week, but I think what we've seen from Tamati the past 2 weeks, he deserves first shot at that 6 when SJ's back, in my personal opinion. If Webby went out there and picked CHT instead, I wouldn't sit here and complain, which we know I do when I don't agree with the team. But I think Tamati is he's done more than enough to deserve the first rights to it. But we'll see. We've got a week off before we have to discuss a Warriors lineup again. But that was the round. Very enjoyable. It's weird to have the Warriors as the last game of the round, having it, finish the weekend. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But we'll go to tips or ladder, whatever Paul wants to pick. Tips. So Rocking Horse Road still at the top on 67, but the top 4. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. I'm looking at the wrong picture. That's my bad. Rocking Horse Road still there. So professional, Brad is. I can't see it, mate, so I'm going to bring up my own one. Apologies while I just minimize and upsize. There we go. I'm back. So Rocking Horse Road still at the top on 72 points. I am now at second on 72 as well, and Shut FC is third on 72. Then we've got Simon at 70. ACT Hellcat is fifth on 69. Bjorn, you're seventh on 66. Richie, you're eighth on 66 as well. And then we just fall down. I don't know if Hammer's still watching or if he's gone off for dinner in Rotorua where he is at the moment, but he is 12th. A lot of people picked the same. We all got the highest score was 5, which most of us got. Simon got 3. He didn't do too well there, but still real tight. I'm feeling a bit more confident now that I'm getting back to where I belong at the top.
I'm really regretting round 3 now where I forgot to submit my tips.
Yeah, mate. Hey, shoulda, woulda, coulda.
It is what it is. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
So we'll go on to the ladder, Paul. That's the fixtures I can see. Come on, Paul. You can do it. There we go, the ladder. I was top 8 last week, so you get it this week, mate.
All right. Top 8 is as follows. Cronulla still in first place. Penrith has moved up to second place after demolishing the Sharks. Melbourne have dropped to third. Dolphins remain in fourth. The Roosters have moved up to fifth. Broncos are now down in sixth. The Knights have moved up into seventh. And the Raiders dropped into eighth place.
Yeah. And then for the rest of the teams, Manly have gone up to ninth. Bulldogs have gone up to 10th. Cowboys have gone up to 11th. Dragons have fallen down to 12th. Warriors have stayed in the same spot at 13. Titans have moved up to 14. Eels have moved down to 15. Tigers moved down to 16. And Rabbits stayed down to 17. So it's really a fight between those 3. I think the Titans have got a few more wins up their belt. But there was, I don't remember who it was, so I apologize that I'm not saying your name, but they were talking about, and Jacko mentioned it earlier, about the bye round, how important it is. They said if the Warriors, they get the 2 points in the bye, they've got the Cowboys the next week. If they beat the Cowboys after the bye, they can go as high as 5th after that, which is a massive swing around. Obviously, there's some other games to go in, but you look, they're 3 points out of the top 8 at the moment. So that's still going with us. I think we talked about it last week, didn't we, Paul? If we draw a line.
I think you need a miracle set of other results to make it up to 5th, but even so.
Well, 5th's only on 14 points at the moment, and we're on 11.
Yeah, but it assumes everyone above you doesn't win for 2 weeks.
Come on, Paul. Don't be like that. Jeez, apologies, listeners, for the negative Nancy in the background.
The Broncos have got to buy as well. They'll get at least 16 points, so it can't be 5th. That's
Yeah,
There we go.
We'll see in a couple of weeks' time, won't we, Paul? We'll remember this
Who
moment.
gave you that? Who gave you that misinformation, Brad?
That was Sens, I believe.
See,
So
mainstream media, don't trust.
come on, it's gonna it's gonna be fine. You guys are all bagging on me now. We're doing the points and laugh at the prop in the corner, trying to do maths. So yeah, that's we talked about it last week before Paul just wanted to come and flame me for being an idiot. Where we draw the line, and I think it's still the same place, which is under the Warriors. Yeah, and Simon said trust nobody, and then Bjorn said data from a prop, never trust it. So yeah, I'll go with Simon's of trust nobody. But yeah, I think Titans down. I don't see having an opportunity to make the 8. Warriors up, I think, are all still in the running on being in the 8.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So we'll move on to questions. I don't know if I want to answer anyone in the crowd's questions after you guys tease me. Just trying to be positive.
Well, look, Nicholas has clearly missed our first bit. So he said, did you enjoy your Warriors HQ talk? Which clearly you said you have done, and you did talk a bit about that at the beginning. But what you didn't actually say was, what was your favourite part of it, bro?
So I'll do one better. I'll do my favourite for the tour and then after the game. So of the tour, my favourite was actually getting into.
Oh, you got time for that?
We've got heaps of time, all the time in the world. There's no Ruin Hammer show tonight because they're on holiday, so we can go as long as we want. Going into the team room where you see it in all the videos when they announce that someone's making their debut and they give them their jersey, they've got like a little mini grandstand. Going into that room, so you see the grandstand, you saw all the computers where they do their reviews of the games and stuff. That's like the little hub of developing what you want to do. And preparing for the game. And I actually had a little sneak. They had like spreadsheets above the computers on the good and bad aspects of last week's game, which we weren't in there for long enough to have a good look, but I had a look at some of the players that I saw reds on, and I wanted to see what they were criticized for. And it was just a good insight into what they do and being in that room. It'd be nice if those grandstand seats were the same as the ones outside because they look comfortable. And then after the game, as I said, we got to go up into the corporate area for free food and drinks, and the food was amazing. So instead of getting McDonald's on the way home, Paul, I had like chicken parmesan and stuff like that. So very proper at the end.
Advertising space.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
There was about your bench press in there, but I'm sure you didn't have time to actually get into there.
I don't think I could set a record on a bench press if I tried.
Yeah, and Bjorn asking about your meeting with Pompey, and we've already talked about that, about how you basically you cowered it and decided not to say anything, and skipped that bit. But then also, great win before the bye. Surely this puts a lot of confidence into the squad going forward. Yeah, absolutely. Are we getting any injuries back soon after the bye? Asked Bjorn.
From what I understand, they get everyone back bar Roger and Luke Metcalf. So
even Sean?
Apparently even Sean as well.
Oh, nice.
That's just early. Could be way off. But then in saying that, Murata and Chanel weren't meant to be back last week. Some people have said that they actually said they would come out early because of how many people are out. So they came back early from injury. That's the rumor at the moment. But yeah, from what I understand, Roger and Luke are the only ones extended past round 14.
And with the Cowboys, the Storm and the Titans are the next 3 games after the bye there, folks. So so obviously that Storm game will be a biggie that you'll want to
judging by my maths, after those 3 wins, we'll be cemented in the top 4.
Well, I was thinking top table according to your maths.
Yeah.
That's the questions from the live chat, guys.
All right, so we'll go with your one to me first, mate.
All right, Brad. I feel like ours are somewhat along the same line this week. I wanted to ask of you, what has pleased you most about our form the past 2 weeks? Could be a player or players that impressed you, or any tactics and or attitude adjustments you noticed that got us the results?
I'll two-prong it. So the player in the past 2 weeks that's impressed me the most has been Mitch Barnett. I think he's even come out and said he doesn't see himself as a captain, but I think he's been fantastic. He's undefeated as a captain at the Warriors, but I think we talked about it when they announced that he had signed with the club. We kind of talked like he's a good player when he keeps his head level, because he's always a bit of a discipline-prone player. We haven't seen that since he joined the Warriors. He's really taken to like a duck to water. And yeah, he's really just stood up and delivered week after week, which he's been rewarded with Origin. In terms of the team itself, I think it's the next man up approach. As cliche as it was, I rolled my eyes when I heard Webby first talk about it last year, going like, it's what you always say. You go, doesn't matter. The next player will come in and fill the job. And he's like, yeah, you say that, but, some guy that, shouldn't be playing first grade, week in, week out, surely isn't going to replace like a big name. And that's what we've seen the past 2 weeks. I think without the big names there you can see the team has stepped up. There's no one relying on anyone to do anything or do it all. So I think that's it. It's the form in the past 2 weeks. They're a team now, I feel like that losing slump, it felt like there was a bunch of individuals taking it on themselves to try to do everything, and it doesn't really work. But when they all work together, good things happen. And like as Paul made fun of them, they're not scoring a lot of points, but they're not conceding a lot of points either, which is what I'm more concerned about. I'll take a 4-point win over, an 18-point loss.
Yes.
So yeah, that's what's pleased me. It's the next man up and working together. Did you have any picks before I throw my question at you?
Well, since you went that way, I'll approach the tactical side. I just liked how, and it's kind of similar to what you said. It's like everyone stepped up, so it's not like all on Sean, and it opened up a lot more looks. Like I was saying earlier, we attacked different parts. Our kicking game was a bit more varied, so it shows we don't. While structure is good, there is other ways to skin a cat rather than rumble up the field, put up a bomb and pin them in the right hand corner, and have Rocco Berry and that chase and pin them. There's other ways to get it done that will make us a bit more dangerous because it gives us a bit more variation.
Yeah, so that kind of goes into my question, and it kind of is very similar to what Bjorn's just said. So I'll say what Bjorn said first, and then I'll give you my question. He said missing SJ has been a blessing. Not that he was to blame for the losses, but they seem more than willing to use their own talent. So my question for you is, we've seen the baby Warriors impress in the past fortnight. They seem to be clicking and stepping up. Do you think when the big names return that they can keep this mentality, or are you concerned that they'll return to that same style they were playing 3 weeks ago, where it's all through Sean, all a big kick to the right, all going right all the time and being predictable? Or will they keep this attacking from all angles?
I hope they do keep the same mentality. And I hope that the stars that we're missing in these past 2 weeks take the lessons from what they've seen over the past couple of weeks, that it all doesn't need to fall on a couple of people. We've got weapons across the park we can use. Obviously, some of those big names are going to slot back in, and I just hope that they see that, when Fanua Blake wasn't getting big minutes in the Panthers game, people like Jazz Tavanga stood up and went absolutely crazy against the Dolphins. Bunty, other forwards can share a bit more of the workload. We can run set plays to different parts of the field, like against the Dolphins. We had Mitch Barnett. I said he's a front rower in my eyes, but I thought on the left edge he opened up a lot of things for Pompey and Marcelo on the left as well, and I thought that edge looked dangerous. Yeah. So as long as we're not pigeonholing ourselves too much into that process we were running with that became predictable and stale, I think I think it's a nice evolution. I hope that's the way we go because, I do get concerned if we fall back into those old ways. Other teams have that figured out.
It is a concern of mine. I'm going to be optimistic, though. I feel there's been a lot of people saying that, like, Sean may be overcalling, taking all the attacking plays, and that's what's kind of caused it to go. I'm hoping that what he's seen in the past few weeks, he may have a bit more faith in whoever his Haas partner is going to be to kind of let the leash down a bit and let them actually contribute. If they do that, you actually do have a two-side prong attack. And that is what we kind of saw last year. We had attack on the left, not as much, but because you had like Jackson Ford and guys like that out on the left threatening to score, it opened up for Dallin to do what he does on the right. So, it's I'm going to be optimistic and say I think we're going to see this be like the new way forward. Bjorn just said, is Jazz staying with us? Thought there was talk of him going to Jacko's favorite competition, Super League. Just got to talk to him about that. There's still conversations going. I think it's wait and see how he delivers on the field before anything official is going to happen. He's going to, if he's there, I don't see him going to another NRL team. I think it would be if he doesn't play for the Warriors, he'll go to Super League. And I feel like every team in the Super League would want him. But I think the way he's been playing, you're going to see him in a Warriors jersey next year, in my opinion. That's not something I've heard from him or any rumors. It's just me looking at what he's been delivering like the past since he came back from injury. I think if he can stay injury free for the rest of this year, I think he's got a good shot of getting an extension. And Jacko said Jazz is too good for the old man retirement comp. I think so too. I think he's still got a lot to deliver for the Warriors. So I fully expect him to be there next year. The only time I got a bit iffy was when you had like the talk about Isaiah Papali'i. It's like I could see them letting Jazz go and signing him, but he's with the Panthers. So yeah, I think it's just showing that he should stay. He's got a lot of heart. He's taken a lot of the rubbish out of his game. He's still like not a thug's a word that you guys like to use from time to time with me, but he's a very aggressive player, but he's found that line where he's not risking like silly penalties. Just got to work on his captain's challenges now, but you know, he's very good. So yeah, I'm hoping we see him. He's got a lot of heart. So that's it for the questions. We'll move on. Round 13. Easy multi this week because there's only a few games with half the comp on a bye. So
trust us, Paul.
Trust us, Paul. Trust us, Paul.
Down before.
Coming up first tomorrow night, we've got the Eels. The Eels playing the first place Sharks. I'll go on with the Eels.
I'm on the Eels.
On the Eels.
Let's go.
So come on, guys. You're going for the team that's lost their last 4 games on the bounce.
Yep.
Has only won 3 all season. It's the Sharks, who are away from home, have only lost once. They got 4-1 record away from home, and you're going for the the Eels.
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
You go. I know this. The better oval ball game is new to you, but Origin period Sharks. All of the Sharks stars aren't there.
I'm playing it up a little bit for you because initially I thought you were talking absolute bollocks between the two of you, but the TAB
they're the favourites, aren't they?
Oh, they're favourites.
Eels are the favourites.
They've got the Eels at $1.78. So okay, maybe this time you know what you're talking about.
We've been saying for it feels like the last month that the Eels, all they need to be good is to have Clint Gutherson and Mitchell Moses, and they're both back. And it's the Sharks without Nico.
And maybe a coach might help.
No Cam McGinnis.
Yeah. Jacko said Moses and Gutho are back, but the Sharks will bounce back. I just don't see it. I could be wrong. I didn't see the Titans winning last week. But yeah, I'm going with Eels myself.
Yep. I expect it to be tight, but go on, Eels.
Yeah. So 66-0 to the Eels over the Sharks. It'll be over 100 points in 2 weeks for the team in first place. That's probably never happened before. First game, or the only game on Friday, Knights versus Doggies. I've gone with Knights. I think at home, they've still got quite a few. They're pretty full strength.
Yeah.
Near enough.
Forget
Doggies are
losing.
losing.
Talk about the Knights. The Bulldogs so far this season at home, they've won 5 games, lost none. Away from home, lost all their games. So 1-0, lost 6. The Bulldogs haven't won. The Bulldogs cannot travel.
Yeah.
And they've got no Matt Burton either.
Matt Burton's gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Knights have been very gritty the past few weeks, so at home, I think Knights.
Yeah, and then the first game on Saturday, we've got Panthers-Dragons. I've gone with Panthers. I know they're missing a lot of their origin players, but the Dragons don't have Ben Hunt and they don't have Zach Lomax.
Yeah. And that'll hurt them more than
the players the Panthers are missing, to be honest.
Yeah.
Saturday,
I'm with you.
We've got Dolphins-Raiders. I've gone with the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins will do a bounce back after losing to the Warriors, and they're very hard to beat at home. They're at KO Stadium, but they're still on home soil.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure you're getting that from us. They've won 3, lost 2 at home, so it's not exactly a very strong home record.
It's better than their away record.
The Dolphins' away record is 1-4, lost 2.
Who's giving you this info?
Out of Queensland.
Oh no!
Sorry, not away. Playing outside of Queensland, they're not very good. But in Queensland, they are.
Okay, so I don't have that one. But anyway, I'm agreeing with you guys on the Dolphins, but I just don't think that this idea that they've got a particularly strong fortress at home is true. That's all.
Queensland. They're good in Queensland, not good away from it. It was a question asked in the media conference after the Warriors loss.
Well, as I've given you the stats, he could turn around to him and ask the journo, "Do you know what you're effing talking about?" Because clearly they don't. Next.
No, it is correct. They've won most of the games in Queensland. Shut up your face. Last game, Roosters Cowboys. I've gone with Roosters. As we talked about in the news segment, Cowboys have lost everybody. And I don't think they've got it in them to do a baby Warriors against the Roosters.
So, and by them coming out and talking like that, they've also scared off all the punters. The longest odds of the weekend are the Cowboys at $6.20.
Yeah. So, we're both going Roosters here. So, did we agree on every game this week, Richie?
We did.
So, yes, there we go. It's the multi is on. If by some miracle, especially with your bloody first choice about not picking the Sharks, if by some miracle you're right, we'll get back $14.07 for a $2 stake.
And I'm just looking at the 2024 Dolphins run. They're undefeated at KO Stadium this year. So shut up.
You're just lucky they got 2 home grounds, eh?
Yeah, they've won a few at Suncorp, but they've lost a couple.
There are 2 losses. There are 2 home losses though. Somewhere, I don't know where their home is, but
they lost to the Broncos at Suncorp. Which, can you call that a home loss when you're playing Brisbane in their stadium?
Broncos home game, really, isn't it?
And in round 1, they lost to the Cowboys at Suncorp. Back when we thought the Cowboys were back. But yeah, so we're arguing about a team that's going to win anyway. So. It's all right. So that is it for the NRL. So, Jacko, you can go now unless you want to listen to what is the amazing Super League. I didn't grab too much news out of there. St. Helens regained their top of the ladder spot on 18 points. Wigan and Warrington are now second and third, but also on 18 points, just separated by points differential. Round 12, we saw Lee defeat Huddersfield 16-10. Castleford defeat Hull FC 30-22. St. Helens defeat Leeds 40-10. Warrington defeated Catalans 16-8. Wigan defeated Salford 26-6. And then Hull KR defeated London 64-14. So a big blowout to end the round. round 13 starts on Friday. I believe it's Friday their time. Huddersfield versus Hull FC, St Helens versus Catalans, Warrington versus Wigan, Leeds versus Castleford, Hull KR versus Lee, and Salford versus London. So some big games in there, St Helens, Catalans, and Warrington, Wigan.
Yep, nice games.
So anything else you want to add, mate, before we let everyone go?
Cheers for the chat, everybody. We've come in at a brisk 1 hour and 45 minutes. So good dress rehearsal for Origin next Wednesday. We're going to have to do the same thing again so we can watch the game.
True, yeah. At this time next week, it will be starting in 15 minutes with probably the first time I get my numbers right tonight since everyone's giving me crap about it. But
only 5 games to review, guys. So hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
And no Warriors game, so...
Yeah.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight on the Standoff with Brad and Richie here on New Zealand Sport Radio. For your weekly update on rugby league, tune into our show next week at 8 p.m. NZ time, or at your convenience on iHeartRadio or Spotify. Just remember to search for New Zealand Sport Radio. Thanks again for joining me, Richie, and cheers for your help in the background, Paul. And good night, everyone.